Tiger's Den, coming back with some more Magic the Gathering Arena. Hope you're all doing well on this fine day. Thank you very much for joining us. And we're going to get right started. And I tried more things to get the chat to appear on my Streamlabs again, and it's still not doing anything. So apologies for that, but I guess I'll keep working on it. I can't actually see it until I go live, so I guess I could do some like dummy streams or something and just try to get it working there. But anyway, thank you for joining us. So for today, the last week or so, I've been continuing to tune our Legion's Shadow deck. I've gone a bunch of different places with it. We tried the version with... let's actually take a look at some of the previous versions here. So we tried a version with more, a little bit more like the modern Death Shadow with Opt and a lower threat density and a little more disruption and things like that. And I had a really hard time getting that to really work. I took it into the... It was somewhat like this deck here. It's a little changed, but I took it into the ranked yesterday and piloted it to a whopping, oh, I can actually bring it up and show you all, but a whopping 42% win rate. I'll just flip on the, where did my scene go? Here we go. Okay, display capture. On. There we go, sweet. So... Yeah, so I was, oops, that's not what we wanted. Go away, sorry. Streamer problems. So as you can see, I take pretty detailed notes on my ranked matches, you know, what rank I'm in, what deck I'm playing, what I'm going up against, mulliganing, who's on the play, things like that. We actually played first 53% of the time, as opposed to last month when we were, 25% even, although we didn't play that many games last month. So, yeah, so yeah, I played a bunch of matches here, did pretty poorly with that deck. You can see over here I have by archetype, and I'll scooch it over a little bit more so we can... There we go. So we have by archetype over here. You'll see aggro 27% win rate. That was the worst that we had, and that was almost 50% of the decks that we played against. The ones where we did pretty well were against ramp decks and against mid-range decks, which we pretty much crushed. Again, only 7 and 5 games to go by here, because we only played 54 games total, and there weren't many of those decks. But yeah, I did really well there with those kind of being able to get in under them and then also fight them in their own grindy game because of Chandra and Thought Erasure and all of our removal and things like that. So those games went really well, but when you have a 27% win rate against 40% of the field, you will not do very well. So I think that as you get, I was just playing up through silver and gold, a little bit of bronze, because you know that your rank decays every season. I hadn't played any yet this season. So I think that as we, hopefully as we move up in rank, you'll start to see less, how much was red deck wins here? Yeah, 22%, no, sorry, that's our win rate, 22% versus red deck wins are worst by a fair margin of decks that we had a like, appreciable number of. Yeah, so hopefully run into a fewer of those. Yes, that was 9 out of our. So about 20% of our decks were against red deck wins. So anyway, I decided maybe we'll shelve this one for now. And the thing that really made me feel like this was not where I wanted to be, and I couldn't quite get it to where I wanted it to be, was all the times when I would minus Chandra, and I would look at my graveyard, and I would say, none of these spells help me, but God, I would love to get one of these creatures back. So because of that, I started looking around. I just did a search for instants and sorceries that say, like, return creature, graveyard. And there's some of them, like, there's Aid the Fallen, you know, this one, it costs 2, but it can get you back a Planeswalker too. I'll actually, oh, I only have it by things that I've collected. There we go. So there's March of the Drowned, which is basically just Disentomb with an upside if you happen to have pirates in your deck, which we don't. Which this, I mean, it's okay. It's not a card that you'd usually be super happy about seeing, um, especially because it just goes back to hand. You know, reanimator spells like Blood for Bones seem like not where we want to be. Bond of Revival, same thing. We don't want to be spending 5 mana to get back a Knight of the Ebon Legion or a Lightning Stormkin that already has haste. Gruesome Menagerie, we don't want to be spending 5, although we do have 1, 2, and 3 drops, so there is that. But the cards that I thought to myself, aren't there some pretty cheap Reanimator cards, or at least good value get cards back cards? And there's 2 of them. There's Find Venality and Revival Revenge. So with the Find half here, which of course we can't cast the green half of this, or the 6 half because we don't have green in this deck, but we can cast Find for black. And that gives us 2 creatures back from our graveyard to our hand. That's really good because our creatures are really cheap. We can get them back pretty cheaply, probably cast them on the same turn, get card advantage, get card selection, hope that we out-tax our opponent's removal. Great. And then Revival Revenge, similar. Instead of getting 2 things back into our hand, we get 1 thing back onto the battlefield. And notably, all of our creatures cost 3 or less, even though they're pretty threatening. So again, the Revenge half, we don't have white, we'd never be casting that. But the Revival half is sweet. Now, the important part of this is that I don't feel like we want these cards just to cast them from hand. But the ability to outgrind our opponents, or especially the removal-heavy decks where we often just end up at too much card disadvantage, the ability to minus Chandra and rebuy a creature from our graveyard by casting one of these cards would be great. So I looked around and I thought, oh right, it's Revival and Find. That's where we want to be. And then I remembered, wait, those are both split cards. And Chandra says, instant or sorcery card with converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard. Now, for those of you who've been playing for a few years and maybe, skipped a couple of years ago, you might think, well, that's fine. Revival is CMC2 and Find is CMC2. That works. However, back right before, I think it was Amonkhet block, that rule was changed because there were things where you could put, split cards that had 1/2 as 2 and 1/2 as 6 on an Isochron Scepter and then recast it for 2 mana, and then it was crazy. And because they were doing split cards again, they said, no, we're going to change it so that a split card, except for when it is on the stack, its mana cost is both halves of the card put together, or at least its converted mana cost is. So Revival Revenge has CMC of 8 when it is in your graveyard. Same with Find Finality. We can never cast them off Chandra, even though what we are trying to cast only has CMC of 2. And that made me incredibly sad, and that was kind of when I thought, I don't think we're going to get there with this particular deck that we're trying to build. But this is where we ended up with the deck, regardless of that. I put in a few negates because of matches that we were really bad in. Negate could be helpful. Because of the negate, I took out the Rotting Registrar, which wasn't playing terribly well with the more reactive game plan of this deck. I replaced it with Legion Warboss, which I will say that card was an all-star in this deck. It really helps to overtax your opponent's removal because it either takes 2 removal spells to get rid of both halves, or it takes a board wipe on its own, which is great for us, and it additionally lets us pressure and open board really heavily. And because we have a lot of permission, a little bit of permission and a lot of removal and discard, we often are able to clear the way. And then went down by 1 Chandra, because while she is fantastic, I found that we often just had too many of her in our hand and she's too slow. And you'll see, like in those aggro games, where she's just too pricey to like put her down and cast something relevant off of her. So going down to 3 seemed good there. I put 2 Moo back in to make up for some of the threats that we'd dropped. Oh, also we had dropped out the Spawn of Mayhem because this deck is far too slow not to just die to its own Spawn of Mayhem. And then I also went, Bedeck Bedevil seems pretty good here. It is a Lightning Strike that, granted, we can't point it at Planeswalkers or our opponent's face, but we can buff our creatures with it if we really need to get in those last few points of damage. Obviously, it would have to be a Pumped Knight and not Lightning Stormkin or something. But also the Bedazzle half is really interesting because remember I said before that the games that, like the card that pretty much determines whether or not we win or lose particular matchups is Search for Azcanta. And by the time Azcanta flips, we're probably getting close to 6 mana in this deck. If the game's probably still going on at that point because we're not that fast here. So being able to blow up their Azcanta is really good. I've had that happen only once since putting this list together, but it was great. I have a third in the sideboard. I ended up opening 5 of them somehow. I opened like 2 Shocklands from all of both sets and got a set of like Bedeck Bedazzle and I think or Bedeck Bedazzle and I think like Mirror March or something like that. All these cards that I'd rather have shocks, but. Anyway, so that has been an interesting addition. The other downside of this is that because of the split card rule, we can't flash it back off of Chandra, and that has come back to bite us a few times. But other than that, largely the same thing. This is the biggest change, along with putting the moves back in. It performed all right. It got us to, I think that after we retooled to this version, our win rate did go up somewhat. I'll just quickly filter out, or actually just momentarily delete all of the games where we weren't playing this list, and that got us up to a 47.8% win rate, so a little higher than the 42.6. So that actually performed pretty well. But anyway, so that's kind of the. Oh, and I renamed it to Legions is Shadow because of the extra Legion in the Legion War Boss. So that's the post-mortem on that one. We'll probably keep brewing with it, but for now, I am feeling like this version is a lot better. So this looks a lot like what we were running before. We do have the Bedeck Bedazzles in there. We do not have the Opts because this deck is much more aggressive, and also it has a lot less blue in it, so we can run that as more of a splash, even though we do have most of our blue lands in here. 24 lands because of the no cantrips. And our blue is just here for Stormkin and Thought Erasure. And I will say that I still feel like Stormkin is the weakest card in this deck. But it's good enough, and we want a high density of 1 and 2 drop threats, so having the 12 there feels really good. What I do feel like this deck wants, and what I think Grixis might kind of need to be able to, if it wants to kind of have the same presence that other wedges, such as, Esper have, is, or not wedges, but shards, is a Hero of Precinct 1 analog to go in this slot, a high-value guy to go along with Red Horde Butcher with its heavy racing potential. But for now, this is what we're going with. Rotting Regisaur has been great in this configuration because we are much less reactive and much more proactive, even though we do have these Bedevils in here and, Legion's Ends and things like that. Spawn of Mayhem, because we're racing so quickly, this has been great. There are some games like versus Red Deck Wins where it's a liability, but, it's only, like 27% of the meta? No, 20% of the meta we saw when we were climbing earlier, so, it's only every 5th game. Sideboard, we do have a couple negates here. We would probably be bringing Regisaur out in the games where we'd want negates, so that seems alright in there. We have a couple of Legion War Bosses for when we need higher threat density, like against the control decks, where we need, more creatures and more creatures that are hard to answer on a 1-for-1 basis. Also, having Rotting Regisaur making us discard every turn is hard in those games. Unmoored Ego for games where it seems important. We have the third Bedeck Bedazzle in here. A little more spot removal with the Disfigures. 2 Duress in the sideboard, up to the 4 Legion's End and the 75, because that card is amazing in a lot of matchups. So that's what we're looking at here, and that's what we're going to run tonight. So without further ado, let us play some games. Just going to be doing best of 1 in the unranked again. I'll probably, once I have a firm grasp of what I want in the main deck here, I'll probably start going into best of 3, but I do really like just being able to focus on, game 1 after game 1 after game 1 to get that 60, the core 60, tightened up. So that's what we're doing for now. Marth, a man or woman of culture, I see. Alright, this is pretty much exactly what we want to see, a little bit of removal. I mean, not the opponent going first, which I don't think I've been on the play all day today. I've played like 20-something games, and I think I've been on the draw every time. But that's fine. We get 1 more card than our opponent half of the time. Looks like they've got a shock there. It looks like we got some red deck wins. Oh, well, no turn 2 play. Looks like they're holding removal, and I would rather run my Stormkin into removal than my Red Horde Butcher. So we're just going to run that out. They both have haste, so if we dodge removal, we're good in either case. I don't think this guy's making it to the combo. Oh, it's making it to the combat step. Yep, there we go. It's actually kind of nice that they used Shock there, because if they'd used a Lightning Strike... Oh, Krenko! Okay. Well, Lightning Strike lines up well there. Because if we had run our Dreadhorde Butcher out here, I'm just going to kill it now and not worry about, like, forgetting to stop here. And they didn't have, if that was their only shock, then they'd be spending more mana to answer that card. Okay, Chandra's alright here. I can actually just cleanly answer her here. So I'll take the 2 damage. I guess they do have red up, so they are representing shock, but instead they light up the stage. Okay, so this is the Cavalcade deck, it looks like, just with a slow start. So we can go Dragon Skull Summit, we can play Dreadhorde Butcher, we can hit Chandra, buff Butcher because it gets buffed off of dealing damage to planeswalkers as well as players, and then we can 1-for-1 Chandra with Lightning Strike. So that worked out alright. I would much rather have hit them and then played Spawn of Mayhem, but you can't always get what you want. Now we really need to find an answer for Chandra's Spitfire, because that will also wreck us, but the Spawn of Mayhem can block that, so that's a cool thing. I will attack here because we can't block Spitfire, and if they... Oh, well, I guess they're not going to... They're not going to... I lost my train of thought there entirely. But, okay, so we will have our Spawn of Mayhem, Internet of the Ebon Legion. So we have a wall for this guy, and a wall for this guy. Second Spitfire feels horrible. Spawn of Mayhem's going to start hitting us, and so this is one of those matches where we'll see Spawn kind of not being that great for us. This is funny because it's going to buff Chandra's Spitfire. Nice. I hadn't even thought of that interaction. Oh man, and we are... I mean, our opponent's drawing a lot of lands too, but we are drawing a lot of lands, and they've gotten to, you know, Divination for 1. Alright, we'll put this out. We can double pump Knight of the Ebon Legion. We have Dreadhorde Butcher to block Tin Street Dodger. Eventually our Spawn of Mayhem will start getting bigger, so that's cool. If they want to block here, I'm totally fine with making a trade. I mean, I can double pump, so they would need to have... Yeah, okay. That seems like the best play for them here. I could actually probably have turned Dreadhorde Butcher into a removal spell, because if they block with a Spitfire, we deal 2 damage, the Spitfire kills us because of the Spawn of Mayhem damage. Oh my... Wow. If they ever find a Cavalcade, this is over. Because each of these is going to swing as a 10-3. And that will literally just one-shot us. Opponent held priority there, so they probably have some kind of burn in hand. Oh my god, and we're still top-decking lands. That feels horrible. I mean, I'm going in with Knight again. I mean, do I swing with Butcher? No, I think I want Butcher as a blocker for their haste threats. And we're probably, if we go in with it, trading for 1 Spitfire, which... I mean, that's alright, but I don't think that gets us there. I think we need to have that guy hopefully slowing down, gumming up the board a little bit. Okay, so they block, block. Okay, so this guy is taking 8, so we can't save him with double pumps, but we can kill both of their Spitfires. Now if they have double shock, they can kill this guy, but then we've taken 2 shocks out of their hand. Yep, okay, so we do this again. Okay, so we just got a shock out of their hand, and because... Well, actually, we didn't even need the Death Touch to kill both of those guys. So that was a really good trade for us. We traded our 1-drop for 2 of their 3-drops and a shock. Now, Krenko is going to get shocked. Awesome. At some point, we have to start pressuring here. But, well, for one, we can't leave that Krenko on the board. That guy just has to die. Because even if we chump block him, they have a bunch of guys. So... Ugh. I think now that we've dealt with 3 of their cards back-to-back like that, if they do have a haste threat, that's not that big of a deal. So I'm going to go with Red Horde Butcher, see if they want to make the trade. If they don't, that's awesome because our guy gets bigger. If they do, that's still awesome because we get rid of their Spitfire. And then we have an open board. And if they burn us... Okay, well there's the Cavalcade, so I like having taken out that... Spitfire now. Oh, good bedevil. Okay. So this guy can deal 1 damage to us because it can sack in response. Well, actually, I'm going to hold that. There's no reason to kill it here necessarily. I'll wait until it attacks if it does next turn. Because if I do that, if I kill it now, they tap and sack in response. If I do it after they've already attacked with it, they still get the damage, but this way we can tell whether or not they have a thing that we would rather kill. And then we can judge whether or not we want to fire off the removal spell. Look at how sweet a Chandra would be here, by the way. They have virtually no pressure on us. We have 3 removal spells we can buy back. Pretty much every one of them kills one of their guys. Speaking of Chandra, okay, so make sure we have a stop on combat. Oh wait, that doesn't matter because, yeah, she does this. She gets her guys. I think we just have to... I think we're priced into killing Chandra here. We take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 damage, go to 7. That was a great top deck for them. Probably next to Spitfire, that was the best thing they could have gotten. Maybe even better than Spitfire, because we can wall that. I mean, just walling Cavalcade all day usually doesn't go well for you because they have such a high threat density. But I will point out that they are dead on board because they're currently at 11. We'll hit them for 5. Then on our upkeep, we will hit them for 1 down to 5. And our guy will be a 6/6. So they have to win right now, which a Chandra would do for them exactly. But that would be their 3rd Chandra. And yeah, they don't have enough... They could have a Spitfire too, the Scampering Scorcher. That would be another out for them. But we got there. Spawn of Mayhem in the aggressive matchup still did it for us because we had just enough pressure on them for it not to lose the game. Oh, that's right. We were actually dead to Lightning Strike there because of the 1 damage to us on our upkeep. So, yeah, as you saw, so that was not Red Deck Wins, that was Cavalcade, which I have listed separately here. But Cavalcade on this version, on the previous version, I have a 0% win rate against with the previous version of Shadow. So this is a lot better. And that was on the draw too, which I feel, obviously Cavalcade and Red Deck Wins, both very, very strong on the play versus on the draw. And this deck actually also, I don't have numbers on this yet because I haven't started collecting data, but also feels very, very much stronger on the play. Because Thought Erasure on the play, much stronger, and Dreadhorde Butcher on the play is incredibly powerful compared to having it on the draw. So we will lead with... I'm actually going to lead with this one, I think. Because we have basic Mountain in hand, so we have more ways of getting untapped red as needed than we have getting untapped black as needed, although the odds of that being relevant are very minor. I mean, as needed as in, like, not having to shock it in. Okay, opponent goes nothing, nothing off of Forest, so let's take a peek. Oh. Yuck. Yuck. Okay, well, Regisar outclasses Steel Leaf Champion pretty hard. I think we have to get rid of the Nissa, because we can't really deal with her. I don't think Lightning Strike does anything, so we'll get rid of that. Well, we do also have a Shock. Can we double up on anything? No, but we can actually double up Okay, I think I might have to keep this because they have a lot of threats that are going to be... Oh, right, this guy has hexproof. Oh, man. Man. Okay, well, maybe this is going to end up being Regisar fodder, then. We could also Bedeck Bedazzle and shock this dude, and then have Rotting Regisar to tangle with a Ferox, but this is going to be really difficult unless we find... some of our hard removal spells. Alright, so they'll go in. I'm going to kill this guy because I want to... Oh, let's make sure it's not tapping us off of red. Yes, good. I feel like we're not going to win a race here. I feel like we have to deal with as many threats as possible, and Rotting Regisar makes that almost impossible. Okay, well, they're missing on lands, so that's nice. I think I'm going to run out Dreadhorde Butcher here. Actually, they don't have anything that this spell kills, so maybe I actually will Lightning Strike this guy. I could just run Dreadhorde Butcher into it. They probably block and then trade. Let's do this just for the lulz so we have untapped blue. But yeah, I think that spell doesn't... That Lightning Strike does nothing to stabilize us unless they miss on... Well, unless they have to play small creatures here. But this was a pretty good draw, because now we have 5 lands, 4 power on board. We have an evasive leader, along with this guy getting bigger and bigger, and now can trade with Nullhide Ferox. And then now we've emptied our hand for Regisar. So, we're stabilizing maybe. It relied on our opponent missing 2 lands in a row, and having nothing but 4 and 5 drops. Okay. How much power did we have on board there? So we're hitting for 12? So we were taking them to 3 there, and then if our Butcher died, then it would kill them. So I'd actually pulled Butcher out. You saw that when we were looking through the previous deck list. I'd pulled it out of that one because the Legion's Shadow, or the Legion's Shadow deck is more of a grindy deck, not quite as much on the, just hit the board immediately and start pounding. And in those situations, the Dreadhorde Butcher is a lot weaker, I feel. But with this one, because our tempo and velocity are so... Oh, we go first. Nice. Savor it, chat. Savor the play. Watch us get stomped. Watch us get stomped now that I said that. It just feels good, though. But yeah, so in this one, where we're so much higher velocity and we want that critical mass of 1 and 2 drop threats... Speaking of 1 and 2 drop threats, your turn late there, buddy. But Knight of the Ebon Legion on turn 1 doesn't do that much. Grant the Stormkin, be effective with our mana. Next turn we can Knight plus removal spell. And if we eat removal here, I would rather it go on Stormkin than Knight. Ooh, a second Stormkin. That... If they don't have removal here, this is amazing for us. If they do, they've got it. Mountain into Dragon Skull Summit makes me think probably not Grixis, which means probably not board wipes. If I'm wrong about this, this is insanely greedy, and we will probably get stomped. But if I'm right, this is enough to pump our Knight of the Ebon Legion for free. Looks like they got spot removal here, so it will not happen. But if they use spot removal, that means they're probably not on Cry or anything like that. So this is all fine. We definitely have them on the back foot. Except if they'd had Cry and another black source, I guess, is the important part of that. I imagine they just... Okay, it's Aristocrats, so yeah, not board wipes. But no plays for that number of turns seems really unfortunate for them. Alright, I'm pretty sure... So they can't block with this guy and sack it to hit our Knight again. So I think I'm just going to play this. They have a lot of 2-drops that we really, really want to deal with, so I'm not going to spend mana dealing with it and then still not being able to grow Knight. Okay, so they let it through. I will do this. That takes them to 10 and gives us a 2/3. It's now immune to shock, so that's nice. I mean, they could go shock, sack this guy, but that's... They're losing this elemental token that doesn't do much, but if they want to re-equip this, that's 2 mana, and they're missing lands here, so... I wonder what they kept with just 2 lands and not really anything they could play for 2. Okay, well, there's Priest of Forgotten Gods. And Gutterbones. Okay, so we're going to... I think I actually Legions and the Priest of Forgotten Gods, even though Gutterbones can be recurred, because I don't think Gutterbones is going to be that relevant here. Because I don't think they're going to be able to get in and then rebuy it in time. So we're going to... If they have another Priest of Forgotten Gods, then that's the worst thing that could happen, because we're going to end up running ourselves out of removal. Ooh, okay. Well, I can kind of see what... How did their draws work that they didn't... I guess they didn't have black turn 1. That probably put them off of a lot of things. Alright, so let's pay 2. Go in with side. They go to 1 here if they don't block and I pump, so I imagine that they're, yeah, sacking that guy here. Yep, deal 1 to our face. I do not really mind. So if I lightning strike them here, that puts me in an even better position, I think, because that takes them to 3. They die from virtually anything, and that also makes this guy a 3/4, so it's out of burn range for them. And they don't have anything that I really feel like I need to kill this turn exactly. So we're going to do this. Because we have the Bedevil here, so this guy can't block this turn, this guy can't block this turn. Yeah, they're just... Yep. That'll do it. As you saw there, they missed on their turn 1 play because they had no untapped black source. They missed on a bunch of plays after that because we were on the play and we had aggressive creatures out and they had to deal with that. So unfortunate for our opponent there, but you know, that's the variance of Magic. That is the variance of Magic the Gathering. And, you know, the variance of Magic isn't necessarily a bad thing. Like, it's good to have variance in games like this, because otherwise, you know, the better deck always wins, or the better pilot always wins, things like that. So when people talk about variance in Magic, don't take that to mean that it's explicitly bad. We're on the play again. Second time today, after like 30 games. You know, you want to have... I mean, there are some games that have no variance. Like, chess has no variance other than, I guess, depending on how you decide who's white, who's black. But, yeah, there's the exact kind of variance in Magic is the thing that I think is kind of tilting for people sometimes, because of the variance of whether or not you can actually play the game of Magic when you would really very much like to play the game of Magic. So let's put down some red here so that we can hopefully cast Chandra next turn. Take a peek. Looks like they're on the Selesnya Tokens deck. I think it's the only one that really plays Flower Flourish. Sure is. So I think we remove their Tithe Taker. I don't care about some Saprolings that much, but this guy's really obnoxious because of the tax, and well, they're ways off from March of the Multitudes, and hopefully we will just find a nice little. We'll keep that on top. Nice little Legion's End to deal with them. So if we do not get red this turn, okay, so they do the Saproling Migration. We do find the red though, so that's excellent. Question being, do I swing with Knight and threaten the pump? But I think the answer is no, I will just drop down Chandra. Letting them have these two to convoke the March of the Multitudes might be an issue, but man, Zek's still a nice job. So yeah, that could have actually been a mistake, but I guess we will find out. Ooh, Legion's Landing is nice, because that's a additional chump blocker for our side. If they flip it, though, we are only one land off of being able to cast Bedazzle to blow up Adanto. So that is really nice. Alright. No, I think I actually thought Erasure here. I think I thought Erasure, because they have 1, 2, 3. If they have a land that's 4, 5, 6, 7, they make 3 lifelinkers. That's a pretty big deal for us. Okay, we're going to play this. We will Thought Erasure their March. We'll make sure to tap correctly so that we have Bedeck Bedazzle if necessary. So we'll go... We can play that with double black or whatever, so we'll go blue black. I don't know why it taps another thing automatically after you tap one sometimes. They're just going to raw dog, like, get... Yeah, X equals 2. Okay. I'm alright with that. Take the Flower Flourish. I will leave this guy on top. Because, worst case scenario, it deals with 2 of their guys. No attacks. They can flip Adanto here, but like I said, they can probably only activate it a time or 2 before I can Bedazzle it. That sounds really funny to say. Dazzling. Because, you know, when you think Riot Demons, dazzling is what immediately comes to mind. So, pass, we will block one of these guys, hope that they didn't find a pump spell, because that would make us really sad. Nope.
Raining is so hard.
Alright, so what's our line here? I think that we play this. Oh, they can activate Adanto here, can't they? Because they can go 1, 2, 3, plus this. Okay, so I think that we hold back on the Dreadhorde Butcher. We swing. See what they choose to do. I imagine they chump? Oh, they do not chump. Okay, so that's really good for us, because now we can do this, and then this, make sure it leaves up black-red. We are at 12 here, so our life is under pressure. If they'd not let that damage through, I might have wanted to take a different route with the with how I spent my mana, so that's why I did not play Dreadhorde Butcher first. Another Legion's Landing. So that Legion's End is looking really tasty right about now. Let's see if we can find it. Well, that's not it. I think we're going in with just this guy, leaving back blockers because of our life being under pressure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if they want to throw away 5 of their 6 guys, they can do it. I mean, they can make another one, but... Yep, okay. So this is going to be dreadfully slow and painful. Oh, you know, I probably should have just got him a Spawn of Mayhem there. The thing is that our ability to race them is really diminished because of the fact that they're getting all this lifelink, so I don't know if we can actually survive, if we can outrace them. Oh, wow. More lifelinkers. I mean, they're just 1/1 lifelinkers at this point because flipping another... Well, I guess if I blow up one, now they can flip another. So that's actually pretty good for them. Well, this guy's a 5/5 now. That's not Legion's Landing, but it does represent double pumps, so... And... Oh, that's right, that's enough for Bedeck Bedazzle. So I guess... 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So if we go block, block, shoot 1, they hit us for 4, take us to 6. This takes us to 5. So can we attack with Spawn? I mean, we're on a clock either way. And I don't think that fading 1 damage with Spawn is really worth, so... We'll do this. Is it better just to... Bedeck Bedazzle or Bedeck a few of their creatures? I can hit end turn here because they can activate Adanto in response. But yeah, I think given that they have another Legion's Landing, I just am supposed to blow up some of their guys. And hope that we can outrace with this. Ooh, okay. That's really bad for us. So I guess we'll do this right now. Or do we... I think we're just supposed to use this to kill Shalai. Or... Okay, so we're going to let this resolve. If they attack, we chump with Dreadhorde Butcher, or trade with Dreadhorde Butcher. Dreadhorde Butcher shoots Shalai. Oh, they transformed it. That means that that was a huge punt on there, because that's a May, right? That's a May effect? Oh, no, it's not a May effect. Okay, so we pass here. We block one of these lifelinkers because we don't want to block the one that there's more of. Because if we get Legion's End, we can kill more of them. So they hit us for 6, take us to 4. Our guy takes us to 3. Oh, but then, you know, they gain a bunch of life. So, and they go to 16. We hit you for 1. We make you a 6-0. One funny and very niche upside of Bedeck Bedazzle is... We found it. Oh, wow. But is making your 3-3 Dreadhorde Butcher a 6-0 and shocking someone for 6 to the face? Okay, just make sure. Yep, this seems correct, because we can't just instant speed. We can't bedazzle their... we can't go inside of the Ebon Legion here, unfortunately, because we will die... Wait. They'll take us to 2, this takes us to 1. So we get in for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I think we actually are supposed to go in here, because they can't make another creature this turn. Oh wait, we can just win, can't we? No, because we can't both pump and... 6, 7, 8. Yeah, so we can hit them for 11 this way or 11 this way, but we can't do both. Yeah, we're going to be short mana either way, and we'd only take them to 5. I don't think there's any haste threats in this deck. And there's not much... That's not going to do it. There's not much in the way of flying. So, yeah, we go to 1. And then... I guess we'll play this. Opponent gives us the good game. There we go. Wow. Okay. Spawn of Mayhem in the aggressive matchup again leaves us with 1 life at the end of the game. But gets us there. I should have been attacking with that guy earlier, definitely. I should have been playing to... Well, I mean, it worked out because if we might have died before we'd gotten to the Legion's End if we'd done that. But we also would have had... They would have had 1 less turn to stabilize, perhaps, so... Or to before we killed them. So hard to tell whether that was right or not. I think we just sort of lucked into the Psychic play. We also had the play that time, so that's always nice. Alright, so we can either shock for Knight or shock for shock. The sensor in my brain went off when I said that, like, wait, shock for shock, literally, that can't be the thing that we're meaning to say, right? But given we only have a single threat right now that we can cast in the next, like, X number of turns, excuse me, and they have Mountain, I think I like playing this, not running up Knight of the Ebon Legion, and then either shocking what they play this turn, or if they don't play anything we want to shock, just thought erasuring them. Okay, so this could be Drakes, this could be Wizards. I love the Wizards deck. Okay, looks like, or yeah, Phoenix, I mean. Seeing a lot more Phoenix all of a sudden. I don't really understand why. It's suddenly kind of back, but... I mean, I think it's a really cool, really fun deck. Oh boy, Charticourse, Drake. Well, we can kill 1 Drake. Charticourse lets them dig really deep. But, I mean... We can't stop them from digging, we can stop them from draking. And they don't have a cost reducer, so they can't recur this Phoenix for quite a while. When they do, we have a shock. Legion's End is only good if they have Goblin Electromancer, and Electromancer's value after the first couple turns in this deck drops quite a bit, plus we have 2 shocks. So, we will put that one away. I mean, that could be on, like, Terramander, too, or something, and then I just feel like a chump, but, you know. Alright, Alright, so they go cycling through their deck. Oh, they discarded the other Charta Course. What did they just draw into? That seems like exactly what they want right now. So they can shock Aware Knight of the Ebon Legion here because we need one more mana to pump. So I think what we're supposed to do is we have black, black, red. So pay 2 life, pass turn, assume that they drew into a land there because they threw away more digging. Oh! They think we're on Grixis control and they shocked our face. That's fantastic. Okay. They have the colors for Drake, but they're not playing it. If you get a land here, we can do Spawn of Mayhem. We did, and we can. So we can Spawn of Mayhem. Both Spawn of Mayhem and Knight of the Ebon Legion are weak to Lava Coil here because Lava Coil will kill the... No, it won't kill it through a pump. Okay, let's do this then. I'll have to double up on removal for it, and we will have Bedevil and Shock up in return. This deck, in my experience, the Phoenix deck, in my experience, doesn't really run much in the way of... yes, I want to do that to make them spend more removal mana. Doesn't run much in the way of counter magic. Oh, they didn't even see the pump there. Unless they just wanted me to tap off of it and then they have another... Nope, that's not what's going on. Unless they have land shock in hand, which would be really good for them, granted. Looks like that's the case. Or not. Okay. Land would have been fantastic so that we could kill Crackling Drake and play Dreadhorde Butcher. But no such luck. I think... Do I like just offering the trade here? I don't think so. I think that I like bedeviling this Crackling Drake, which is going to threaten us really bad. So even if we swing and they don't block, then we can't pump, because then we let Crackling Drake through, which I think is worse than the alternative. So we could put down Spawn of Mayhem and get that to start growing. But I think I just like the bedevil and then swing for 1. They opt. I love opt. I don't run it in this deck, but I love opt. And running it with Chandra was great too, actually, because there were some really grindy games that ended up in where, you know, you're flashing back multiple opts with Chandra just to put yourself ahead on cards. So whatever opponent found they liked. Which, hate to see, but that's the way it goes. We've taken out half of their Drakes. Oh, they just hardcast a Phoenix, okay. Well, we have a shock with your name on it. They have no way of recurring their Phoenixes, and even if they did, they would have done it already, or they would have done it before combat, so I feel good about just shocking it right there. There's an Electromancer. We have a shock for you too. So I think the play here... So we have a lot of lines here. I'm definitely going to shock, because there aren't many things in their deck that we can shock. There's already 2 Arclights in the bin, and Goblin Electromancer makes it easier for them to get more back, plus it's blocking us here. So we're going to lead with a shock. Then we can either swing and pump, drop Dreadhorde and pump that, but I think I'm going to swing and then get Spawn of Mayhem out, because that's going to be harder for them to deal with. So we'll go in for 1. I should have made sure it wasn't tapping us off of our black there, but it couldn't tap us down to a single black, because we have 3 out. So we'll do that. Put down a 4/4. I think the weakest line out of all of those would have been pumping Knight of the Ebon Legion. It's more pressure on their life total that turn, but it leaves us with just 1 threat. That's a 2/3, and we're tapped out. So Beacon Bolt's great for them. It can deal with 2 of our threats. They have to discard a card to do so, but that's fine. Notably, it is not an instant, so we are safe to do this. Because we have 3 threats, I feel fine with doing this because we have 3 threats until they have the Beacon Bolt. I can only kill 1 of our guys. And, shoot, I totally threw that and meant to play this guy as well. Less talk, more play. Okay, so, well, that worked out okay, because we can still use the mana here, so before they draw, we will just blow this guy up. Because we know they don't have any permission in their hands, so we don't need to, like, try to wait for them to play something else, and then, you know, all that. They didn't play the Beacon Bolt, so they must really like whatever's in their hand. So, anyway, now we'll play a second Dreadhorde Butcher. I think we'll play a third Dreadhorde Butcher. We could also pump, in which case we hit for 2, 3, 4, 7. Maybe that's actually the correct play, because otherwise we have to for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, take them to 9. I think I like getting their life down further. They're going to kill one of our guys here regardless of what we do. So I think that I like this to hit them as hard as we can right now. This guy has haste, so it will be able to go in and deal damage next turn regardless. And yeah, if they... Oh, they found another Drake. Well, that's really good for them. All of our guys kill their Drake, though. Knight of the Ebon Legion pumps. Discard land there. Not surprising. Knight of the Ebon Legion pumps. And these guys both deal an extra damage when they die. I think I'll just play this out. And then go with everything. They can block the 3/3, in which case they go to 1. Which, I mean, that's the correct play. I guess they could also block the 1/1 if they want to preserve their life total, or if they want to preserve their Drake, rather, but that seems really sketchy here. Alright, so we take them to 1 and have 2 guys that will kill them if they're removed. Lava Coil does exile instead of killing them, so we won't get the trigger there, but I don't think that would... I mean, even if they draw the Lava Coil, we still kill them, because even if they hold back to block, our guy dies, shoots them in the face. So yeah, I kind of put them in a no-win situation there, which is... I mean, that's kind of what you want to do, is make it so that every play that your opponent has is a bad one, and they have to choose the least bad. And I think they did a really good job at that. I don't... Well, they threw that lightning bolt away on our Knight of the Ebon Legion. That was a big misplay on their part. But I think that in terms of navigating those final turns there, they did a really good job. Okay, this is great, because we have Knight of the Ebon Legion on 1. We can shock in to Thought Erasure them, and then we can Mountain to Chandra. So, the old hello. So either White Weenie or Vampires. Plains means maybe a little more likely to be White Weenie. Sure looks that way. I don't know why they didn't flash that in. They could have just killed my Knight of the Ebon Legion. I actually like doing this. I have another Knight of the Ebon Legion, and they are the Beatdown deck. We are the control deck. Obviously, there are... that's not always the case. We were the Beatdown in the previous match, but don't let all of this, all of the aggro fool you. We are both of those things in different circumstances. Alright, so this makes everyone bigger, and is a 4/4. This makes everyone bigger, but it's not a 4/4, and Raise the Alarm is 2 dudes, so I think I'm getting rid of the Venerated Loxodon. If we find... We're hoping to find a Legion's End here, so that we can just get rid of all these soldier tokens that are going to be 2/2s no matter what we do. I think we'll probably go Night Stormkin Swing this turn. Although, I guess we could try Chandra and just fog a bunch of damage, because they probably... want to swing at her to stop us from Thought Erasuring them. Okay, Drowned Catacombs. Like that. So, if we Chandra, we probably just take 5 damage. Well, 6, because they'll Unbreakable Formation. Yeah, we don't really have any great lines here, because they can play this turn and then play Unbreakable Formation and have all 8, and then we can just get rid of their Conclave Tribunal. Although they could... Oh, well, we can't play Chandra now because of the land that we played. Ha! I knew that. All according to plan. But yeah, I was thinking the Chandra line is probably the weakest. I could be totally wrong about that. I've never actually played against this version of White Weenie that has all these tokens in it. Opponent considers Unbreakable Formation in response, I guess. Looks like they're considering they're gonna... Yep, okay, so I mean, we're not attacking with our Stormkin here. And they're not blocking with their... or they're not attacking with their... they're not blocking with their non-flying creatures. If If we're lucky, they'll Conclave Tribunal us. Nope. And then give us additional chances to find Legion's End. Yeah, right now we're just on a 2-turn clock. I mean, we're on a 2-turn clock whether or not we chump here. So I like keeping more of our resources in play, because we're not going to be able to kill any of their units here. I mean, they're indestructible, let alone, you know, 2/2s. They can get rid of our Knight of the Ebon Legion now, because I forgot that this gives Vigilance. Oh no, does it? Is that what they have Vigilance? Yes, I'm thinking Vigilance until end of turn on the addendum. So that was pretty cool. Thought Erasure 1 turn late. So we are pretty dead. Probably should just held this guy back to block, I suppose. Yeah, well, we will remove this guy. I don't think they're ever going to hold a card in their hand for the rest of this game, so we're just going to do this for the Surveil. I actually like this land, because this land means that next turn we can Chandra minus Lightning Strike. I mean, they could just get another... Well, I guess even another Unbreakable formation just puts us at 2, which means that we're still dead on board and everything, but, you know. Differently dead on board. Yep, so now we can do this, and we can do this, and we can give them a good game. We can roll down, Lightning Strike this guy. Yep, so 1 turn too late on the Thought Erasure there to get rid of the Unbreakable formation, because then we could have just stonewalled their side for the foreseeable future. Knight of the Ebon Legion walls them, Lightning Stormkin walls them. Oh, they saw the line. They saw the line. Attack face on the open board. Yeah, unfortunate there. If we had Opt, maybe we could have found that a little earlier, but also having Opt means you have more dirtily turns, which is fine in some decks, but this deck really does not want. I don't remember if I surveilled the card that I saw away with my first Thought Erasure. If I did not, I could have gotten to that next Thought Erasure 1 turn sooner, so maybe that would have been the right play. Of course, you can't know that, but it's nice to look at those things in retrospect and see if what you got rid of is the right thing or not. Alright, I like leading on this one, because we have double black in our near future, and we can cast Stormkin off of either of these shocks into Sulphur Falls. It's the red deck. Joy. I think I'm just holding up removal here. I could put this guy down. Well, you know, I actually don't hate that. I don't hate putting this guy down. The Firebrand isn't, unlike Lava Runner, Firebrand doesn't give them the option to... Oh, I guess run Aristocrats. So now I really like that previous choice. Oh, I'm totally okay with making that trade, man. Yeah, Butcher is much higher value than Stormkin here. And we stop their Firebrand from swinging. I've got Thought Erasure. Alright, let's see what they're thinking. Thinking about sacking their Firebrand, apparently. Okay, so... I think I like getting rid of the War Boss here, because that's going to leave a token behind. Chandra's going to hit us for 2, but then we can Bedevil her next turn. 4 lands is fine for now. We want to find more interaction, and then eventually a threat. And we can double spell next turn anyways, so that's all good. Although I'm not going to double spell, though, because we'll want to Bedevil their Chandra, which takes us down to basically just Shock or Knight of the Ebon Legion as additional plays that turn. Oh, another Bedevil. That's not the worst. It's slow, but they have some very high priority threats in their deck, some of which are Planeswalkers, so having that around is nice. And we've really put a damper on their tempo here. Well, they found another Chandra, so we found another Bedevil, so they'll take us to 13. We'll Bedevil their guy. Really wish I would have been able to find removal for this Firebrand by now, because it's hit us like 4 times, but... Out of the Ebon Legion. I'd love a shock here. Well, actually, that will do it. I mean, shock of a different sort. So we can pay 2, Bedevil, and the question is, do I want to Bedeck Bedazzle, or do I want to Lightning Strike? I think I'm going to Bedeck Bedazzle, because I think that these are mostly the same, but we know that they have Dreadhorde Butcher, and as I just mentioned, this is a terrible removal spell for Dreadhorde Butcher, because even as a 1-1, it will just hit you for 4. Because it becomes a 4-3, and then dies, and then you regret your life. Alright, we need a creature here. That is exactly a creature. Oh, that's terrible for us. Okay, so... Oh no. Well, I mean, they have to sacrifice 2, or, well... No, okay, never mind. Yeah, this is fine for us. They'll sacrifice their entire board to kill a Knight of the Ebon Legion. So they'll do that. We will pump. That was a really good draw for them, because it lets them actually kill this guy. Oh, they just elected not to. I guess people missing the Knight of the Ebon Legion pumps today. Or maybe they were confused about some sort of stack interaction or something. I have no idea. I think we start pressuring them because we have Lightning Strike in hand, so we can put this in... Oh, we should have played this untapped first, because now if we pump, they can kill our guy. Oh, that was a big misplay on my part. So let's do this. See if they missed the line. Actually, no, it's alright. Yeah. So I should have shocked this in first, because that way I had enough for 2 pumps. Because if I was going to pump to deal extra damage to them, they could sacrifice both of these guys, kill my knight. Just making sure that it's not my boss letting me know that my levels are off or something. Pass. Okay, so they are tapped. If they're sandbagging something good, then we're in a terrible spot. I think I'm okay with taking the 1 extra damage to hedge against that. Going to 7 isn't exactly what I want to be doing, but yeah, so the line that I did with this guy was completely wrong. That was a huge mistake on my part. They shock our face, the Knight of the Ebon Legion, so they're pretty confident in their ability to close out this game. Well, of course, well, I forgot that we still had pump mana there. Well, Regisaur is really good for us, because that lets us swing. They have nothing in hand, so you don't even have to worry about keeping this guy alive and deploying Regisaur. And now we have a 7-6 in front of their 1-1. Discard a card, no thank you. Stormkin is great. I'll let this hold back a... Actually, I'm going to use this guy as a blocker, because I'd rather swing with both of these guys. But I still want a blocker in case they have a good amount of damage in hand. Alright, so they decide to block Knight of the Ebon Legion. It will still get pumped, so they can sack, deal 1 to our face. Yep. So they're 8. We play this guy. That puts them dead on board to any 2 of these threats. And we have 1 blocker back in case of, like, a Firebrand into a burn spell. They give us the good game. So, this deck is running pretty hot right now. Okay, what haven't we fought against? We haven't fought against any sort of, like, ramp strategies, or... we did do... I can't remember if... Did we do Control now, or was it right before I started streaming? I think it was before I started streaming. That was pretty rough. I think we managed to win in the blue-black Control. Rekindling Kleenex. But yeah, it's running really well right now. This is our first non-keepable hand because we can literally not play anything except for Bedeck. So, unfortunate, but sometimes you gotta do it. Okay, love this. I think I'm gonna keep the Bedevil and drop the Bedeck Bedazzle. What is up with these names? Or actually, maybe I just go back a land. I think I'm alright with that because we only have one thing that we can't cast in our hand off of what we have right now. Come on, there we go. Hello. So I'm okay with doing that. Odds that we draw only 3 drops are pretty low. Which 3 drops are the only things that make us really sad here. Alright, opponent goes Grill Guildgate, so either a budget list of some sort or a Scapeshift deck. So we're just talking about not matching up against the Scapeshift deck. If they have Arboreal Grazer, we're just really sad because that, like, walls our entire deck. And I shouldn't have even said anything. Well, we can Bedeck Bedazzle it. Oh, that will stop us from being able to get in with a Knight of the Ebon Legion pump, because Double Stormkin would have done it for us. But yeah, I think that I think actually the correct play is to play the Stormkin here. Because either way, we're getting in for 3 damage. This way we have an additional creature on board, and we can save the removal spell potentially for something more relevant, although I don't know what that would be. Grazer has reach, so I can get in front of that guy. You know, the Llanowar Elf that leaves its mana around after it dies and has 3 toughness and reach. And I know it's not actually that good, because it... Oh, okay. So they're actually the Gates decks, so... nice. Yeah, I don't think we're recovering from that. I was expecting more of a Scapeshifty deck, but we got the land, so... If it's Gates, I don't think we need to keep Bedeck around, because they don't, in my experience, run Field of the Dead. Although I guess, I mean, so the decks that run Gates of Blaze generally don't also run the Field of the Dead and supporting things, but I guess there's nothing stopping them from doing that. Most of the lands in that deck are Gates, or at least lots of them are. Although maybe you can't actually get enough Gates and enough lands with different names to make that viable. I really don't know. Anyway, point of the story is I'm probably getting rid of Bedeck Bedazzle. Yep, okay, so Guild Summit. So decidedly the Gate deck. So they're going to have a very easy time out-grinding us, if allowed to do so. Actually, you know, I'm just going to be casting the Bedeck on the Arboreal Grazer almost definitely this turn. Well, I guess it depends on what we draw here. Ooh, Chandra. Okay. Can't play her. We don't have enough red. That's unfortunate. But I'd really like to remove this guy because that essentially makes... I mean, that was 2 mana to deal 7 damage, and we need to race these guys down because they are going to outvalue us, and they'll have Archway Angels that gain them like 40 life, and then they will have Guild Colossi that are 8/8s that they cast for like 3, and we have nothing. I mean, I guess if we'd had the Bedevil, we could have gotten rid of one of those, but we were priced into removing that guy. If we get another red... Oh, well, I mean... No, we're not doing that because we have to discard Chandra here. Babe Grixis. They get a redraw. That's nice. Oh, okay, so it is a Field of the Dead deck. Another thing we can't cast Chandra off of, so that sucks. If we draw a future one. They chump. Not surprising. No reason to sandbag that unless we want it in our graveyard, which we do not. I don't think I've seen a deck that's this all in on both Field of the Dead and Guild Summit. I think it's largely because you want pretty much everything in this deck to be a Gate or Gate synergy in the Gate deck, and then with Field of the Dead, you want to run as many lands with different names as possible, so it might make it kind of awkward to yeah, make that work out. Okay, do they have double Gates Ablaze, or... Oh, Gates Ablaze Lava Coil, okay. Notice that we actually got kind of hosed by having to put back that land. I think that that was probably the correct play, but, oh, yuck. I don't see a way out of this, but yeah, so if we'd have been able to play that Chandra, you know, have the extra damage up that they can't remove with those removal spells, have the ability to remove another blocker later. You know, she deals 7 when they can't chump block off the Regisar. Be able to flash back spells that we have to discard to our Regisar, stuff like that. So yeah, little unfortunate on the mulligan there. Oh, Teferi, so presumably they, I guess they could roll him down and if they wanted to bounce Guild Summon. I don't think that makes sense, but yeah, I just want to draw the card. That's pretty weak against our hasty threats. But, I mean, I don't see how we get back into this anyways, so seems fine. This represents instant speed scape shift. We can't kill it on our turn. I mean, I don't think this really makes a difference, what we do here.
This is hardly my worst defeat.
Really would have liked a hasty creature there to remove Teferi and then remove Teferi and then just, you know, keep getting in. Yeah, see how they have double Selesnya Guildgate here, so Field of the Dead did not activate because it needs 7 lands with different names. But yeah, I mean, they have 6 cards in hand off of the Guild Summit. We have a Drowned Catacombs, and they have 11 life, and now they have 13 life, so they are... I think we can just call it. We'll see what we draw here, but... yeah, I think we can... Oh, now they have that online. Oh, okay, well, we got a Stormkin. That's cool. So we won last turn, but good game. Alright, so we got to see ourselves get wrecked by the ramp deck. I feel like this ramp deck's probably a lot better against us than the straight-up Scape Shift deck because they have Gates Ablaze, which, by the way, very playable card. I'm actually kind of surprised that we don't see more of this deck running around because of things like that with all of the aggro decks running around. At least in, you know, I think it depends what part of the meta, what bracket you're in. But anyway, having that Gates Ablaze in there, being able to deal with 3 of our creatures at once, whereas the, you know, Bant Ramp and Bant Scape Shift and Yarok Field and those things generally have a harder time dealing with a wide board state. So I feel like against the Gates deck we're probably a lot less favored, but this is not great. We have a couple draws. We have Dreadhorde Butcher. We have Shock. We're 1 land from Stormkin or Chandra. I mean, it needs to be a particular color for those, but I feel like this is keepable. Mulliganing is not great for this deck, even though our hands are often really good. We have a wrong half of the deck problem, so having the wrong half of your deck is a lot easier when you're down a card or 2. Which, for those unfamiliar, the wrong half of the deck problem refers to... let's see. If we want blue next turn, we want to have this down. So we'll lead on that. We can't cast Lightning Stormkin either way. Unless we get... Well, I guess if we get a Steam Vents... Oh, no, okay, I probably actually was right to do the other way. But either way, we will run this guy down. Go in there, hope to find some lands. So yeah, the wrong half of the deck problem is when your deck is roughly half, you know, half answers, half threats, or, you know... Oh, it's the Wizards deck. Nice. Love that deck. We're going to kill you really bad right now. Okay, awesome. So, oh, no, we don't want to shock this in because we can't play Lightning Stormkin and shock. So we'll do this tapped. So in a deck like this one where we have lots of these aggressive threats, but then also we have things like Bedevil and Burn, which can go to the face, granted. But then all the B, the Rakdos B whatever cards, Bedazzle, there we go. I always misremember those. But yeah, so in a deck like this where we have all those different things, you end up pretty often just, you know, your opponent plays a bunch of threats, and you draw only your threats, and you can't remove theirs, and theirs are faster than yours, so that feels terrible. This feels really good, by the way. Killing their Stormkin while also being able to... What do you want to do here? Unfortunately, we can't flash this shock back this turn because we only have 2 sources of red and we'll need 3 for that. But I think I actually like... Do we shock in, play Chandra? Well, that takes us to 10, and then we get hit again, so... let's just play it a little on the safer, slower side. We'll enter this tapped. And I think I actually hold up the Bedevil for Lava Runner. because we don't want them to have a removal spell for our Steam or for our Stormkin, and then pump their Lava Runner and then hit us for 2. Trying to stabilize with permanents, especially small creatures against a deck like this, is really, really risky. It's often tempting because it's often a really efficient way of draining them of their resources, but it's very, very risky to do it because you run into the problem of, let's see, what do they do here? Of then they remove your whatever it is that you're trying to stabilize with, and then you're just back on an empty board. And do they have Spell Pierce? Because we will regret everything if they have Spell Pierce. I mean, if they have Spell Pierce, I feel like they snap it off immediately, because that saves their Stormkin, buffs their Gitu Lava Run, and go to 8 instead of 11. Light up the stage. Ooh, and they find an Arcanist. I mean, we didn't find red. So we need removal for that Dreadhorde Arcanist in the very near future. I think we're going to Chandra. Oh wait, do we have anything that we can cast in here? No, it all takes red. Then we're going to Chandra Plus. Hopefully deflect some damage from our face. And then also, hopefully, be able to cast something from our graveyard along with a Stormkin or a Devil or a Regisar. Yeah, we need to remove this Dreadhorde Arcanist because that's going to start buying back their spells. They can't buy back anything right now, but because they can pump Arcanist with Adelies, and also if they have other Anthem effects in there, which I think sometimes this deck does run, then they are buying back, Lightning Strikes, and then they're buying back Light Up the Stage, and the Light Up the Stage uses the Adelies, buffs the Dreadhorde Arcanist, so we take extra damage, they can flash back extra things, and it's really miserable for us. Okay, good, they're going for the Chandra. I mean, if they kill the Chandra with a Lightning Strike or something, that's not good, because we want her to be flashing things back for us. Okay, take the Arcanist, that's fine, take Burning Prophet. Okay, we are good for this turn at least. We got another land, which isn't super relevant here. Excuse me. But we can... Alright, so I like flashing back the Shock. Unfortunately, we don't have enough to do Shock, Bedevil, and Stormkin, because again, we'd need extra red. Just going to put in the thinking here. Or, flashback Shock, cast Bedevil, cast Stormkin, rather. Yeah, I like just using the Shock here, even though we might want to spend more of our mana right now. Okay, and then we do this, and kill Arcanist. Oh shoot, and I was just saying how I can also play Stormkin, so that's a feel bad. I did that wrong. Pyromancer hits us to 9. Burning Prophet either hits us to 8 or kills our Chandra. The Chandra is less relevant now because we can't flash anything back with her because she's at 1. But they decide that the 1 damage to our face is not super relevant. And I don't disagree. I think that getting our Chandra off the board is really good for them. Looks like they're considering running out some burn here. Oh, they're just doing that for the Scry, okay. So does that mean that's their only spell in hand? Yep. We don't want this. I'm pretty sure we just ignore... So it might have actually been right to have played both of these, but they could have had, something really good in their deck, and that would make us feel bad, so... I think we do this, try to wall their side. They can suicide into it, but... yeah, I think that just walling them off is better than playing Stormkin and having a small creature that trades while they can still get in. Alright, well they hit Temple of Epiphany, so we're okay for now. We're going to have to turn this game at some point, though. Alright, well this doesn't help turn the game, but it does maybe put a bad card into our graveyard. Yep. Definitely good card. We don't have enough to play it and double pump in the same turn, but that seems fine. no attacks here because of things like this. That, well, I guess they don't have anything that they can play to pump their side, but... Okay, so... Now we have to start getting in, because this is going to kill us in 3 turns. We do have a blocker, so that... Can I actually just jump with Burn? No, okay. I'm actually going to put a stop in here. So our guy's a 2-3. I'm going to pump it right now before they have anything that they can cast to burn him in response to a pump. Alright, they go in there. Dead in 3 turns. I see no reason to play that card. Okay, so we're going to 3 here. They have Shock. That means that if they get one of these guys in, we're dead to just Lightning Strike. If they get both in, we're dead to Lightning Strike or Shock. They have 1 unknown card in hand. So definitely attacking with this guy. Well, I mean, I guess they have to block one of these guys with the Burning Prophet. We go to 1. So yeah, that means that they have twice as many things that can kill us. So I think I like... boy, this is down to the wire here. This gives them twice as many live draws, but half as many turns to find those draws. So I think we go in with both. Oh, I was expecting them to block with the Burning Prophet, so that's probably good for us. Wait. Yeah, we don't quite kill them here. Because we can get up to 8. I think that's probably right. Because I don't think they can kill both of these guys. Both of them represent lethal next turn. This guy grows, and this puts them dead to Shock, so we have additional cards that can kill them. So this is it. This is the do or die turn. I think that we probably... I mean, we might have made a mistake or 2 here and there. Okay, they shot themselves down. Yeah, that was... I really like the Wizards deck, and it's so much fun. Adeliz is awesome. I actually have been thinking about building that deck with some Incubation Incongruity. Because then you can cast it for just the blue. You don't need green to cast the first half, and it helps you dig for Adeliz. And it, you know, pumps all your guys when she's out and stuff like that. Actually, it's getting probably towards... Oh! Click cancel and find a game immediately. Surest way to success. So we'll do this one, and then we'll probably call it. We'll go back over the... okay, so we can't play Knight on turn 1, but we have a pretty good hand. We're a little short on interaction, but so we'll do this, and then... yeah, probably wrap it up for the night. So we're going to lead on Drowned Catacombs here, because that gives us untapped everything next turn, and if we'd played anything else, we aren't guaranteed to be able to get... Oh, and it's burned again. Nice. Get Knight in. So I guess that rather than that, we will be playing this, and then this. We don't have our only removal spell online right now, which is Bedevil, because we need 2 black for that. Even though there's slightly more black than red in this deck has 2 basic mountain, 1 basic swamp. That is because it's only like a difference of 1 or 2 in terms of how much of each color do we have. I'm going to shock this guy right now so that it doesn't give them the cost reduction on Wizard's Lightning if they have it in hand. But there are so many times where we want lots of red that you saw in those previous games where we want to bring down Chandra, and then we want to minus Chandra and cast a burn spell. So even if we... So, in the scenario where we're not casting a red spell off of Chandra, we don't really need all that... that'll do. Oh, we can't pump because you only have 1 black. Hopefully this is enough to get us there with the removal and the Regisar. So anyway, so if we want to cast a non-red spell, we can probably do that because Chandra... I guess we just run this guy out now. Chandra costs the 2 red and then whatever, so if we want to flash back a black spell, if we have 4 or 5 mana, it's almost definitely we can flash back that 1 or 2 cost spell. If we Feels alright. If we want to cast any red spell, we need at least 3 the turn that we play her. So yeah, we want that extra red just because she's effectively 3 color weight in situations where we want to flash back a red spell. But yeah, you can see there, having this as a swamp would have been a lot better because we would have had pump up for, what's it called? Oh, we still can't cast Bedevil, so we're just going to put this guy down probably as a blocker, honestly. Although, yeah, so they can kill it with, they play Chain Whirler, they sack Firebrand, but then they're sacking Firebrand. They can Skewer the Critics it, but then they're throwing a Skewer the Critics at it. They might actually just chump block here and then shoot our face for 1. But they probably, well, Chain Whirler gives them Spectacle next turn anyways. So what we're doing here is we are trying to become the aggro deck all of a sudden. They had to spend 3 removal spells on our early creatures, which put them on the back foot. And then, so if they have more damage in hand, they can actually kill this Regisar. Because this is 3 more plus 1 more, and this costs 1. So if they have a shock or another Firebrand, they can do it. Which would be terrible for us. So yeah, so they've had to answer so many of our threats that they're actually kind of in the control position right now. And red deck wins right now is very strange, because generally red deck wins and loses by being really fast and just outpacing the other player. However, what red deck wins tends to do right now is it is kind of a horseshoe shape. It starts really fast, and then in the middle of the game, it kind of lacks some oomph, because it's, you know, drawing these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, we're just going in here. Because of these, you know, they have lots of creatures, but none of them are very high value, except for, you know, Chain Whirler. It's not playing any 7/6s for 3 or anything like that. I think we take the damage here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, we'll go to 11. I think that they can deal a lot more than 4 damage if we let them draw. Especially because they can discard a card to recast risk factor. Right, so this is the right play for them. They can block Firebrand and then shock us, or tap it to hit us. So if you get a removal spell, we just win, I think. That's not a removal spell, but it might get us there. So it takes us to 5. We're going to have to let him draw off the risk factor. I don't think we can just sit here and sit back, because, I think, as I was saying, with red deck wins now, you have Chandra, the 4 Chandra from War of the Spark, and you have Experimental Frenzy from Guild of Ravnica. Which those mean that if you don't close out the game quickly against red deck wins, it will just grind you out of the game. It will play 3 or 4 or more cards per turn, and you will be wondering what happened. Okay, so here they hit us for 4 and then we die, so we have to let them draw. Decline, opponent draws 3 cards, yeah. So, you just have to hope they brick. Which the odds that they can't deal 3 damage off of those 3 cards with 3 mana is pretty low. 2 cards and 4 land, or 2 cards and 4 mana. Yep, there we go. They found Exactsies. But, as I said before, we had a 27% win rate versus this deck with the previous build. And we won versus Cavalcade, and we ground this one out to, they pretty much had to get the nuts, and we had a lot of live draws to just kill them. So I feel like that was, that's a big improvement. This deck's a lot faster than the previous one, and you actually saw, like, you know, strange thing where they feel like they have to, you know, shock Stormkin, shock Knight of the Ebon Legion, you know, Lightning Strike the next Stormkin or Knight of the Ebon Legion. Actually, and we probably would have won that game if we would have had a swamp instead of that mountain. Because that was the reason that we couldn't play Knight of the Ebon Legion and then pump Knight of the Ebon Legion, so they were able to remove it for just a shock. Whereas otherwise it would have taken 2 burn spells. So that choice with the mana And the general mana greed of this deck being a low curve 24 land deck that runs 3 colors with a fair amount of color weight split between them, and 2 of the colors being about equally weighted, that really came back to hit us there. So, like, our opponent played well and drew really well. We also drew pretty well there, but it was our deck's clunk in that way, taking us off the color that we needed at the critical moment to clutch that one out. But I do feel like that was, I mean, playing the other versions of this deck against red deck wins has just been an exercise in misery. But having things like the Dreadhorde Butcher, coming in, hitting them, killing one of their guys when it's removed, having the Rotting Regisar, sitting there stonewalling them, Spawn of Mayhem would have felt terrible if we had drawn it. But we didn't. We didn't. Good job, Spawn of Mayhem, staying out of our hand. And Thought Erasure can sometimes get rid of those too. So, anyway, that was Legion's Shadow. This is doesn't quite feel like the, as much like the Death Shadow decks in Modern as the previous build does, but I feel like it's stronger and, while not quite as fun to play because it doesn't have quite that same grindy, deck thinning value element to it, which we can see worked really well against those, in the stats for that deck, worked really well against the other mid-range decks. This one does a lot better against the field, I feel like, and it's really fun to play. It still has that element where, we were flashing back our Thought Erasures, sometimes a turn too late, but getting to flash those back, having extra burn spells that we can throw at our opponent, and importantly, being able to rebuy things we had to discard to a Rotting Regisar, that's also really, really nice. I mean, it's the same as flashing back something that we cast, but having a way of rebuying those things if we've had to bin them is really good. And we also saw, before where we had to bin Chandra, another mana greed thing with this deck, because we only had one source of red after we'd, I think, thrown a source of red back under our deck on the mulligan. So yeah, anyway, here's, this is, maybe I'll, no, that's a worse way of looking at this, isn't it? So no sideboarding because we were on best of 1 there, but pretty straightforward. We have Disfigure and Legion's End for the aggressive matchups, also Noxious Grasp for when that's relevant. Bedeck Bedazzle can also come in for that. And the Bedeck Bedazzle also for, I mean, that can come in a lot of matches versus aggro, versus control for their, for the Search for Azcanta versus Field, Field of the Dead decks. So lots of, and then also versus Adanto Vanguard being another way of removing that, along with Legion's End, because of the -3 toughness, getting around their indestructibility. So yeah, a lot of decks this can come in, but I don't think that it's right to cut another Lightning Strike for this because of the fact that this can't hit Planeswalkers, this can't always go to face, and this can't be bought back off of Chandra, unfortunately. So really liking that card, but I think this is a good split for it. So. And then against the grindy matchups, we have a couple of Duresses. We have the Negates, which plays terribly with Rotting Regisar, but I think that you might swap those 2 cards out, because we do have, we have Duress, Negate, Noxious Grasp a lot of the time, Bedeck Bedevil, Legion Warboss, and sometimes Unmoored Ego, but not as often. This might actually be better as Thief of Sanity, but a lot of cards to bring in, so we might end up going down the Rotting Regisar because of the having to play more reactively in those situations, and then that playing very poorly with Negate, obviously. Also, Chandra, Negate, not a combo, like it would be with Snapcaster, but still fine. Legion Warboss, like I said, did great in other builds of this deck. Not in this one, because it's less aggressive than the other Curve Toppers we have, but, maybe it's actually better to have Legion Warboss instead of Spawn of Mayhem. Spawn of Mayhem's evasion is really relevant. We saw that come in clutch in previous games. Also, it would have been great against Adeliz there, but we never drew it, and still managed to just barely squeak out that win. But so the flying is pretty relevant, but when you have things like Cavalier of Gales, which this can't, this gets walled by unless it's been pumped, in which case you're low on life, which you don't want to be against a mid-range value deck. Cavalier of Thorns having Reach just feels awful. This being able to be chumped by Arboreal Grazer, which we saw how good that card is against this deck. So maybe it actually is better to experiment with Legion Warboss. They're both effectively the same mana cost a lot of the time, because this one has Spectacle. Oh, I keep forgetting it has Trample, though, so that means it can't get completely walled off by Arboreal Grazer or other chump blockers. But so maybe I'll try around a couple of Legion war bosses, or maybe try the war bosses instead of the Regisars. But I think we saw that Regisar is really powerful in this deck. This is basically the Death Shadow of this deck. As nice as Knight of the Ebon Legion is, and as good as the pump is, and as big as the downside is here, which is why we only run 2, so hopefully we draw them later when we don't have any cards in our hand. This is the Death Shadow of Standard right now, I feel like. It's not a 1-drop, it's a 3-drop, but Death Shadow usually doesn't come down on 1 unless something absolutely bonkers just happened. Or maybe actually a better analogy is the Gurmag Angler, the 5/5 that comes down for 1 mana on turn 2 or 3. Or comes down on turn 2 or 3 for 1 or 2 mana. So yes, maybe pull out Spawn of Mayhem, pull some Legion War bosses into here, and put the Thief of Sanity back in the sideboard where it can really, we've seen that before with this deck, just hit a command the Dread Horde, and you're the aggro deck, so there's no threat on your life, and then all of a sudden every card that you've ripped out of their hand and blown up from their board is yours. Crazy stuff like that. And again, where, removal magnet, removal magnet, removal magnet, huge removal magnet, but, I mean, big card, so isn't gonna eat a shock. But all these things, we have 12, 13, 14 huge targets for removal, more if you count the Chandra, more if you count this guy for 3, eating removal from the Thief of Sanity. So pretty likely to be able to stick that, I feel like, in this shell, especially when you can rip things out of their hand and then bring in some negates. So that might be a really fun card to try in here, but probably just the sideboard. Maybe next time we'll do some best of 3 once I've gotten this list refined a little bit and experimented with some other cards. That'll be really fun. So yeah, looking forward to that. And I'll also probably... this season's almost over. Ends in 3 days, I believe. That is not my profile. So I'm just going to keep from having too many sources of data in my spreadsheet. I'm not going to be running this in ranked this season, but next season this will probably be my primary deck. So we'll see how that goes, and get some juicy data for it. I love my spreadsheet. It's so much fun. But yeah. So I think that'll do it for tonight. I'm going to get ready for bed because I have a early work meeting tomorrow morning. There's our nice little spreadsheet again. So anyway, thank you so much for joining us. This has been Ben with the Tiger's Den, Magic the Gathering Arena. It's always so much fun doing this. I have a blast. If you enjoyed it too, let me know in the comments. What did you like? What would you like to see improved? If you liked it, give it a thumbs up, or subscribe, click the bell for notifications. If you didn't like it, tell me what I could improve, give it a thumbs down, all that stuff. We just love engagement generally, so I always love to hear what you think. We have more video game content coming in the near future, and of course these frequent Magic the Gathering streams. So yeah, keep your eyes peeled, let us know what you think, and we will see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.